Welcome to Bird Camp Radio, where the coveys rise from the high pines, marsh valleys, sagebrush seas, and the shelf rock ledges. Here at camp, the fire's always glowing, the dogs are never far, and the stories of birds, wild places, and the upland life are just beginning. This is Bird Camp Radio. Before we get into today's episode, I want to thank a company Rachel and I personally trust, Epagneul. We have worked with them several times ourselves, and I can tell you firsthand, they are reliable, safe, punctual, and they give frequent transport updates. That peace of mind matters, especially when it's your dog. If you're a breeder, buyer, trainer, running field dog trials, traveling to a hunt, or honestly just need to get a pet somewhere safely, Epagneul is a perfect fit for bird dog folks. They offer free transportation quotes, and make sure to mention Bird Camp Radio to get 10% off your pet's travel. Check the link in the show notes, our social media bios, or the comments. I highly recommend them. Welcome back, everyone, to episode 22 of the Bird Camp Radio podcast. I'm your host, Kellen Golightly, and we're excited to be back for another week. This week, we have Mike Sheffer, who is coming onto the podcast. Mike sent in a bio not that long ago, so I'm going to hurry and read that for us today. Mike Sheffer is 66 years old and retired, currently living and traveling full-time in a small travel trailer with his 4 Epagneul Bretons. For the past 6 years, he has embraced a lifestyle centered around bird dogs and wild places. Mike has been an upland bird hunter for 40 years, focusing primarily on wild bobwhite quail in Missouri and Kansas. Over the course of his hunting career, he has harvested wild bobwhite quail in 7 different states. He began his journey with American Brittanys, but 16 years ago he transitioned to the Bretons, starting with his first Breton, Jack. Today, Mike owns 4 Bretons ranging in age from 6 months to 8 years old. He follows the seasons, recently moving his trailer from Meade County, Kansas to Beaver County, Oklahoma, where he plans to hunt through January. During the warmer months, he resides in Daniels County in the northeast corner of Montana. Mike's life revolves around wild birds, good dogs, and the freedom of the open road. Mike, we're excited to have you on. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Excited for being here.
Hey, well, we're excited to have you on, and this is a fun bio that you've given us. How do you pronounce the breed of dog that you have? I probably absolutely slaughtered it. I've never heard of it.
It's the original Brittany breed from France, and so it's pronounced Epagneul Bretons.
Oh wow, yeah, I slaughtered that. I'm glad I had you say that for me.
Most people just call them French Brittanys.
Sounds good. Hey, there we go. We'll stick with that. Hey, well, we're excited to have you on, and as you know, and many of the listeners know, we like to play a quick game of rapid fire around the campfire that consists of 10 questions of upland game hunting, and we have a leaderboard. So it's timed. The faster you answer, the better you are off on that leaderboard that we have. So do you have any questions before we get started?
Nope, I'm ready to go.
All right, sounds good. Here we go. Favorite wild bird to chase?
Bobwhite quail.
Most challenging bird?
Scaled quail.
Favorite dog trait?
Pointing.
Best bird for eating?
Bobwhite quail.
Go-to field snack?
Avocado.
Dream hunting destination?
Alaska.
Favorite month to hunt?
January.
Game bag or vest?
Vest.
Solo hunt or with a group?
Solo.
Lead or still shot?
Lead.
All right, there we go. That's all 10 questions, and we will release that at the end of the episode, but it's looking good there, Mike. I think you did a really good job.
I had a cheat sheet. I knew the answers on that.
He had it down. That's what we're talking about. Hey, I love to hear it. So avocados, my wife was over here shaking her head. Yes, we're big avocado fans. We haven't heard that one go-to field snack yet, so we appreciate that one.
Yeah.
No, well, we're excited, and for the people who haven't listened to the podcast before, for the ones that have, you already know that here on the Bird Camp Radio podcast, we bring uplanders from all sorts of different walks of life. Right now, we are scheduled out for uplanders from 22 different states now in Canada. So we're excited to be able to talk to these guys, get to know them a little bit more. And what we'll be doing is focusing on Mike's bio today and getting to know him, why he chose upland game hunting, and why he's been doing it for so long. I mean, there's got to be a reason, right, Mike?
Yes, there is.
No, that's what we're talking about. So, kind of just starting from the beginning here, Mike. How did you end up upland game hunting, and where did it all begin for you?
Well, I was a small game hunter for many years, from an early age, hunting rabbits and squirrels and such in Missouri. And when I was mid-20s, I had a friend that I was going to church with that invited me to go bird hunting, and he had Brittanys. And the first time I went hunting with him and his dog came down on point, and there were birds there. It was just like magic. It was just like somebody had showed me a magic trick. And to this day, it still seems like magic to me whenever your dog point birds and they're there, and it's just a magical thing. And I've never outgrown it in 40 years. It's that special to me.
That's amazing. I mean, 40 years, that's quite the career. And speaking of careers, I mean, you're retired now, and now you get to travel across wherever you really want to go. What was your career that led you to be able to do what you do now?
Well, I have kind of a varied career. Let's say I worked as an accountant and manager for electric utility for a few years, about a dozen years, and then they had a downsizing, and at the time I had two young kids, and my wife, she's my ex-wife now, she had a career she wanted to pursue, and so I started a small cattle operation, and so I had a cattle operation, stay-home dad for about a dozen years, and then after that, I had a organic produce farm that I managed, and that kind of led me up to when I was 60, and so I retired when I was 60, and been single for about a dozen years. My wife and I went our separate ways, and kids were grown up, and so just worked out better for everybody that way.
Right. No, it happens. I get that. That's quite the story, being able to live the life that you have now. I mean, you said that you've been able to hunt in 7 different states. What are those 7 states that you've been to?
I've hunted actually a lot more than 7 states. Those 7 states where I've killed bobwhite quail are
Okay.
New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, and Missouri. I don't know. I think that's 7, maybe 6.
Wow.
But yeah. But I've hunted in I've hunted in Vermont. I've hunted in Michigan. I've hunted in Minnesota, Idaho, Arizona. I've traveled about a little bit.
Wow, yeah, you've been able to kind of just dabble around a little bit,
Yeah.
everywhere. Do you have a favorite state to hunt?
See what that magic does to you?
That's right. That is
Yeah.
right. No, that's awesome, being able to experience all those different states. I mean, I've only been able to hunt out of state in several different western states mostly. The most I've gotten out is hog hunting in Texas. But that's cool.
I don't travel as much anymore. I primarily just hunt like in Montana and Kansas. And last year I hunted a little bit in Nebraska and Oklahoma too. I traveled a little bit more last year. But normally I travel just from Montana down to Kansas now. I guess I'm kind of slowing down in my old age.
Hey, that's still pretty good. That's better than most people can say. So where are you at right now?
Right now I'm in Northeast Montana.
Wow.
I drove up from Kansas, about 2 weeks ago. It looked like it was going to be warm enough I could survive up here, and it's been really hot in Kansas. It was really hot this last year, and they've been in like the mid 70s, and I think the other day they actually got up to 80, and that's just too hot. I don't like it that hot. I like it a little bit cooler. So we had some cold weather here about a week ago. It got down, I think, to 10 below for a few nights, but it's been pretty nice. I've been able to get about half the days, get out about half the days and run the dogs and keep myself in shape.
Oh, I love to hear that. So with being able to travel like you do, how many days a year do you think you hunt, being able to go from state to state, doing all these different hunts?
Well, I don't know, somewhere between 75 and 100, I'd say.
Wow. That's a good year right there.
That magic trick, it kind of has a hold on me.
I love it. I love it. So with this year, how was it for you this year? I mean, I'm guessing that, I don't know with other states, maybe some states still have hunts going on. I know here in Utah we're done until September when it comes to upland.
I think everybody's about done. I think some of the desert states, I don't know about Texas. I don't know how long they go, but I think, about the middle of February, pretty much everywhere's done. The quail hunting's done in New Mexico. And, but I didn't go down that far south. I just hunted in Kansas and this year, and it ends the end of January. But it was really hot this year. I mean, it was hot. That's all. It's the hottest winter I ever remember hunting.
See, we kind of
40 years.
We've definitely noticed that here on the podcast. This year has been kind of across the country a little different than previous years. I know for us, we're kind of in the same spot. Don't quote me on this, but I've heard from some news broadcasts that this has been one of the hottest or the hottest winters here in Utah. Don't quote me, but I know it's at least one of the hottest ones we've had.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been crazy.
Yeah, it was real unusual. A lot of times, during the fall, winter, bobwhite quail will go through a shuffle where, when you see a covey of quail, those birds won't stay together all winter. I mean, they keep moving around, like if a covey gets shot down, they'll move in with another covey. But I've seen birds shuffle, throughout the winter. You'll go out and you won't get any coveys up. You'll get singles or doubles or something on warm days, and they're shuffling. They'll do that all through the winter a lot of times. Well, I'll tell you what, this winter they did it all winter. It was tough to get a whole covey up. I bet you I only had maybe a couple handful of days I was hunting when you could actually see you were getting into coveys of birds. But the rest of the time I'd be getting into like doubles or singles. So it was really tough bird hunting. Because it was so warm, they were, they didn't have to hold, they could run, or fly. They weren't worried about, preserving any energy because it was so warm they didn't have to worry about it, So it was a tough year. It was tough.
Wow. Yeah, we kind of ran into the same thing here. I mean, it was still a pretty good year, but definitely last year was better, and I'm really nervous to see what this upcoming year is going to bring with being so dry. I mean, we haven't had the snowpack that we usually have here, so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, they've had some really bad wildfires in Oklahoma and southern Kansas. Not where I hunted last year, but where I've hunted in previous years. Where they had some really big fires, burned off. I don't know 100,000, 150,000 acres
Wow.
in Oklahoma and southern Kansas because it's been so hot and dry. And so, it may not be a very good year next year if we don't start getting some rain. The warm weather obviously is not going to bother me, but it's so dry right now that, we're not even into the big spring fire seasons yet. So could be some big fires down there, and the bird hunting pretty tough next year, real tough.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I mean, it's kind of
Yeah.
cool from your perspective because you kind of get to travel around, get to see different places and how they're similar and different, and being able to see these kind of different aspects of the hunting. So that's really
Yeah.
interesting to see.
Yeah, I talked to a good friend of mine that he's a quail biologist, and we were talking about the wildfires, and he's like, well, yeah, they'll be bad next year, but they'll burn off all the cedar trees and all the stuff that you really need to burn off.
mhm.
So, long term it'll be good, but next year may be rough.
Right, kind of make it a little tough, but in the long run,
Yeah.
it'll be good. No, that's
Yeah.
good to hear.
Yeah.
That's really good
Yeah.
to hear.
Yeah,
So,
that, fire is just part of the landscape. And so, you just have to do the best you can with it.
oh, for sure, yes.
Yeah.
And so, kind of going on to the bobwhite quail, what kind of draws you to hunting bobwhite quail? I'm guessing you hunt other species as well, but I mean, your main focus and really what you enjoy hunting is that. What's kept you in that?
Well, I think it's because they handle well, and then they don't. I mean, some days if everything turns out right, you're just like, dog work superb, and you shoot pretty well, and you put a few birds in the bag, and you're like, man, this is a great day. And then most days aren't like that. But the bobwhite are more of I want to say a hiding type bird than a running bird. And so, if you can find a covey of birds and then hunt the singles, that's what I really like to do. But the singles are really tough to hunt because they're so small and they're hiding. They don't run much. Some they will run, but they're hiding and they're hard for the dogs to find. I mean, a lot of times you'll get a big covey up and you'll see where they land. You go, oh, we got them now, and then you don't find any of them. you know, find a one. So they're challenging on one hand, but then on the other hand, they're really great for your dogs because they hold well, and a lot of people that hunt Mearns quail like hunting Mearns quail because they hold well, and I think bobwhite. I've never hunted Mearns, but I think bobwhite are real similar to hunting Mearns because they hold well. They're good for your dogs.
That makes sense. See, this is all new to me because I've never hunted quail. I've never hunted any species of quail actually. I've really wanted to, but here in Utah, I mean, I know that they have quite the population down south, but up here in northern Utah, it's very much if you have private ground, that's where you can hunt it if you can get access to that. But besides that, public wise, personally, I don't know, but so it's kind of interesting.
Bob, I think that's one of the differences maybe between me and some of the bird hunters you've had on your show is that, most of the bird hunting I have did in my 4 years has been on private ground because, most of the ground in where the bobwhite is, 90% of the bobwhites are on private ground. There's very, very little public ground that has, hunting access for bobwhite quail in the area where they live. And so you have to, in Kansas now, Kansas has a great walk-in program on the private ground, and that's mainly where I hunt Kansas. I hunt some of the wildlife management areas in Kansas too, but like in Missouri, which I haven't hunted there for a few years, you have to get permission to hunt on private ground, and the conservation department in Missouri does a good job managing their ground for quail. but this real limited still, even in Missouri, the amount of ground that's public that you can hunt quail on. So you have to hunt private. And Missouri doesn't have a walk-in program like Kansas. So, if you want to hunt Missouri, you're going to have to go knock on some doors. And luckily, where I lived when I first started bird hunting in Missouri back in the mid 80s, 1980s, where I lived was a good quail area and small community. Everybody knew everybody. So I could get permission to hunt, on different farms and stuff that had quail and didn't have any problem getting access. But one of the things that's hurt Missouri really bad is what they call the green glacier. And that's woody encroachment, cedar trees and different type of trees that have taken over the grasslands in Missouri.
Okay.
And so when I first started hunting quail in Missouri back in the mid 1980s, they did roadside surveys, and the number of quail they saw on their surveys per mile were like 16 per mile on their surveys. That was their average.
Wow.
And now it's down to 2.
Wow.
Yeah, so really tough hunting in Missouri now. There's very limited areas that have really good numbers of quail, and that's mainly because of they call it the green glacier. That's the woody encroachment, and also fragmentation of habitat. Development stuff has hurt them too in Missouri, and some of that green glacier is moving into eastern Kansas. So the farthest east in Kansas is getting much tougher to find birds there now, like it is in Missouri. But the western 2/3 of Kansas is still pretty much still good habitat, and that's mainly because it's much drier. This doesn't have the habitat for growing as much woody growth.
Wow, that's fascinating, because that's what I find so fun with being able to talk to guys everywhere is, I mean, here in Utah, I don't know, when you live in a place, you just think it's going to be the same way everywhere until you start reaching out and start going to these different places, and you probably know that because you travel so much. But I mean, here in Utah, I mean, we got roughly 75% of our ground is public access. It's BLM, public lands. So we have a lot of opportunity to hunt public lands, but as well, we do have the private walk-in access program as well. So whatever isn't public, there's a lot of opportunity to hunt private as well on some of these walk-in access programs. So it's interesting, and I really, oh man, it's amazing to hear these guys who live in the eastern states or some of those more central states that don't necessarily have that, and kind of the means that they have to go through to hunt. Like that's just pretty cool. The guys putting in the work to be able to do that.
There is there's quite a bit of ground you can hunt bobwhite quail on in New Mexico and in Oklahoma, and a little bit in southwest Kansas that the federal government owns, like some national grasslands. And those are good places to hunt bobwhite quail, but it's more weather dependent there because it's much drier, where like if you move farther east into Kansas and into Missouri, they average 40 inches of rain a year there.
Wow.
So, they're always their problem isn't too dry. They have a bad hatch because it was too wet. Or if you get down into, Oklahoma, New Mexico, southwest Kansas, and even southeast Colorado has some quail. Their weather problems there, it's too dry. They won't get the rains, and then they won't get a green up.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so the middle of Kansas is usually about right.
Right, roughly in there. It's the good spot. No, that's awesome. So going from then, I mean, of course you have your dogs with you. Let's talk a little bit about them. Kind of just the revolution of where you started. I mean, you've talked a little bit about that, like coming into the Brittanys.
Okay. Sure.
Kind of just talking about your dogs now. Why you stick with the breed, and and why you enjoy them.
Well, the first bird dog I had was a Brittany, and I told you about going bird hunting with a man I went to church with, and saw his dog point a bird, and I looked like magic. And I had my first bird dog just a few months after I saw that.
Didn't take much longer.
My brother-in-law had a litter of Brittany pups, and I got a male from him, and that dog was just phenomenal. And everybody talks about, he taught me how to hunt birds, and that dog did. He taught me how to be a bird hunter because he was just so talented. His name was Jake. And so I had Jake, and then he was good. All my friends like, if you ever breed that dog, I'll take a pup. So of course I got a female, and I'd had 2 or 3 litters of pups with him, kept some pups, and so Jake passed on. I kept 2 males from him and were my hunting dogs for many years after Jake left, and then they were getting old. They were like 12 and 13. And I'm like, man, I need a new dog. My dogs are good, but they were still hunting. They were still good. And so it was, it was in August, and I was looking in the Kansas City Star classified ads, and this was in 2009. And there was an ad in there that said, French Brittany pup for sale, 2 males. We'll trade for guns.
Wow.
Wow. And so I had this old 870 Wingmaster 12-gauge shotgun I didn't use anymore sitting in my gun cabinet. And it was a nice one. It had really nice wood. It was old. I bought it like in 72. It was one of the first shotguns I ever bought. And so it was really nice. And so I called the guy up, and this was like during the Great Recession in 2009, and everybody was struggling to sell everything back then. Money was tight. And so he had these 2 male French Brittany pups. He couldn't sell them. They were 4 months old. He hadn't sold them yet.
Wow.
And so I said, hey, I got this old 870. I'll trade you this shotgun for one of those pups. And he goes, well, bring it over. I'll take a look at it. And so I was living outside Kansas City then, and he was over by Topeka, west of Topeka. And so I drove over there. So I traded one Wingmaster for another one.
I love it.
That's awesome. And so I got Jack. Jack was my first French Brittany, and Jack was just like Jake. He brought my bird hunting to another level. He was so good. He was just out of the box. I mean, he was pointing and backing and retrieving when he was 9 months old.
Wow.
Just unbelievable. Just had it all. And he was it. And so I hunted him with my 2 old dogs a little bit, and then they got to where they didn't hunt much, and I called back to that breeder, and I said, well, are you gonna have more pups? And he goes, I've got another litter coming. So I said, well, I really like Jack. Save me one back. So I got another male from him, and that was D. His name was D. He was a full brother to Jack. And I went from having 2 full brothers of American Brittanys that were retired. They were still alive. Then I had 2 full brothers of French Brittanys now.
There you go.
And and D wasn't quite as good as Jack. He was still good. But they worked well in a combination together, And so I hunted Jack and D for many years. And then same thing. Everybody like, man, you need to breed that dog. I'd take a pup out of Jack, not D. Jack. And so I got a female, and I had 3 litters of pups, and everybody liked the pups and everything. And then Jack passed away over a year ago. He was 15. And so now I have 2 of Jack's pups, so I have 2 more full brothers. So I'm like in a full brother show.
I love it.
So I do have I have a young female French Brittany now. I got from a breeder out in Idaho, and she's a really nice little dog, really good little puppy. And so I have 3 now. I had 4. I had a pup I bought from that same breeder, but a friend of mine was retiring, and he lost his old dog, and was wanting me to find him one, and so I actually gave him that pup that I had for myself because he was really wanting a pup.
Oh, that's really neat.
So that means I'm looking.
Yeah, gotta keep on looking for another.
Yeah, I'm still looking for one, man.
No, I love it. That is a great story. I love trading one wingmaster for another. That's a good line. I love that.
Yeah.
No,
so
that's cool.
the 2 male brothers that I have now that are out of my dog Jack, I think one's going to be 9 and one's going to be 7. So they're getting old. They're in their best ages right now, and neither one of them is as good as Jack. And maybe it's because I'm just so partial to Jack. That's part of it, like no one will ever live up to how good Jack was, no. And so I don't know if that's it, or they just haven't came into their prime yet. I don't know, but they're good dogs. I enjoy hunting with them.
No, I love that.
I do have my eye open for maybe one more.
Well, there you go. Love to hear it. All right, everyone. Quick shout out to our friends at Epagneul. If you ever tried coordinating dog transport yourself, you know it's not simple. Whether it's a new pup coming home, a finished dog heading to a buyer, a field trial trip, or even, let's be honest, your wife needing her little mutt transported safely, Epagneul handles it professionally. Rachel and I have personally transported with them, and I can confidently say they are reliable, safe, punctual, and they keep owners updated the entire trip. They offer free quotes, and if you mention Bird Camp Radio, you'll get 10% off your pet's travel. Hit the link in the show notes, comments, or our socials. So we've been talking for quite some time now, and one of the things that you mentioned to me today, and I completely agree because I want to be able to really encapsulate your experiences, is you asked about wanting to talk about the changes you've experienced throughout your years and the changes that you are looking forward to seeing in upland game. And I just want to open that up to you, whatever you want to talk about in that way. I'd love to hear it.
Well, when I first started hunting, I was 10, 11 years old. I was born and raised in Boulder County, Colorado. And where I lived in this little town called Louisville, we all of us hunted, and we would, there weren't any upland birds there, doves. We hunted doves and a little bit of, waterfowl and a rabbit here or there. But we would, get together, get our shotguns. We'd just walk out of town, go hunting. Nobody thought anything about a bunch of, 10-year-old, 11-year-old boys walking down the street with shotguns. It's just like they, nobody batted an eye. That's just how the culture was then. Wow. And so now, if you go back to that little town I lived in called Louisville, it's in the Front Range. Every place that I hunted back there is just a solid subdivision now. Really? Solid subdivisions. There's no open ground at all. So things, I guess what I'm trying to say is things are going to change. And so back then when I hunted, I was a small game hunter because there was no big game. There weren't any deer or turkey like there are now, and so all you had was small game. And so I got into big game, and I've turkey hunted quite a bit, but the upland bird hunting is what I've always liked. And in the late 1990s, early 1990s, the best pheasant hunting state in the country was Iowa.
Wow.
Yeah. and so I hunted Iowa when the pheasant numbers up there were just unbelievable. I mean, they were everywhere. And now they're pretty tough to find there. You know, things change there. Agriculture changed mainly. And then, like I said, quail hunting in Missouri. When I first started quail hunting in Missouri, you know, like I say the roadside count was 16, and now it's 2. Missouri was a quail destination state like Kansas is now. But now there's no birds there. Nobody hardly hunts there. And I see that happening in Kansas now where, you know, Kansas used to be a really, really good place to hunt quail. And now with the changes in agriculture, you know, it's still good, but it's not nearly as good as it was, say, you know, 10 years ago even.
Right. No, that makes sense.
And so now I'm in Montana. I've hunted up here in Montana for 15 years, and I've seen changes up here too, where a lot of the ground that was in CRP is not in CRP now, is being farmed. And the hunting pressure in Montana is just unbelievably extreme. Where I hunt. Just when I first started hunting here 15 years ago, I never saw anybody bird hunting. Never heard another shot. And now, you know, there's people hunting some of these places I hunt. There's 2 or 3 groups of people that hunt them every day. You know, so, you know, I'm not complaining because, you know, we've got to stick together because there aren't very many of us.
No, it's true.
And so we got to stick together, but, you know, there's so much change going on. And what I've seen is that there's so few places anymore that have really good numbers of huntable wild birds that it concentrates everybody looking for that magic that we all look for with our dogs. And so it's so concentrated on places anymore like Kansas or Montana. And I see it moving west to you guys out in the West now. I mean, I'm even tempted to go chucker hunting and stuff out there, you know, because the bird hunting where I normally hunt here in Montana and Kansas isn't quite as the quality as it was a few years back. And so it's like almost, you know, somehow we've really got to look at what we're going to do in the future if we're going to expand hunting opportunities for you young guys. You know, something's got to happen with the landscape to improve the quality of the habitat. So the places where there are quality hunting experiences for everybody to enjoy aren't packed into such small places like Kansas and Missouri and Idaho or Utah. You know, somehow we've got to be able to figure that out. Otherwise, I think that it's going to get to where there's not going to be any magic out there anymore.
Oh, I completely agree. And like you said, you've kind of seen it coming out towards the West, and being out here in the West, I can really testify to that part because, I mean, years back, I mean, upland game hunting, I mean, at least where I'm at, it was definitely more waterfowl driven, but over the years, upland game's really risen in popularity, and especially, like you said, chucker hunting. Chucker hunting, finding spots, finding areas where, especially, of course, walk-in accesses, it's hard to find places where there's not orange or dogs or people anywhere, you know. It's getting difficult that way. I definitely agree.
Yeah. So I mean that's my concern. I mean, you know, I've had a 40-year run that I'm pretty satisfied with. You know, hopefully I'll have another 20 or 30 years left.
Hey, that'd be good.
We'll see. I'm trying to stay in good shape, so I've got as many years as I can left with this magic show.
Well, I'd say you're on the right track.
I am concerned. You know, you have a lot of younger hunters coming on your show, and that I'm concerned that the landscape is just not going to be able to sustain the quality bird hunting that I've experienced in my lifetime. I just think I'm concerned about that. I am.
I completely agree.
You know,
I mean, with your experience, I mean, 55 years of experience is a lot of experience, but when you look at 55 years in history, um, that's a very short span with a lot of drastic changes just where
Yeah.
we're at. And I definitely get, because I think that quite a bit just myself. I'm like, what's it gonna be like when I'm your age and my kids are in my boat in where I'm
Yeah.
sitting? What's it gonna be like for them? Is it gonna
Yeah.
still exist?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's crazy to think. What do you personally think? I mean, when you were talking about kind of looking at the changes going forward, what do you think we need to do that way? Because honestly, I honestly don't know.
Well, I think, and I'm going to be quite honest with you about this. I think one of the biggest problems we have, and it's more than just the upland bird situation, is our farm policy really incentivizes row cropping, even, even though the farmers aren't making any money.
Hmm.
All the big ag companies, the fertilizer companies, the seed companies, they're the ones making all the money.
Right.
And so somehow our farm policy has to change to be more conservation minded than than funding the big ag companies, because that's really in the ag specter, that's the only people making any money is the big ag companies.
Mm-hmm.
And so somehow we've got to change our farm policy to where there's a whole lot more emphasis on conservation, and 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 you see that like in Iowa, which has unbelievable uh, farm ground. It's some of the best farm ground in the world, if not the best farm ground in the world. And but their water, their rivers are all polluted,
Hmm.
because all the runoff from the farm. And so everybody's chasing that dollar on the farm, and none of them are getting it because it's all going to the big ag companies. And so, I think that somehow our farm policy's got to change in the ag states to where uh, there's more emphasis on conservation, and hopefully bring back some good habitat so the bird numbers will be better, and that way everybody won't be coming out to hunt, because they can stay home and hunt there.
Right.
That I think that's what needs to be done, and we need to do some more burning, burning off grasslands, so the keep the woody encroachment down. And I think that's happening. I see that. I think people recognize that we need to do that. And so you're seeing a lot more of emphasis on, planting some native stuff, and keeping it maintained by burning it off. And so, I'm not completely pessimistic. I think it can be done, but it's got to be something we got to focus and concentrate on. It's not going to happen by itself.
I really like that perspective on it, kind of honing back in what the farmland conservation relationship used to be before what it is
Yeah,
now, and kind of find
yeah,
that check and balance once again in
yeah.
there. No, that's a good
Because
perspective. I didn't think about that.
yeah, because even here, like in Montana, a lot of the places that I initially did really well hunting on 15 years ago, well, I'd say about 50% of that's being farmed now that used to be in CRP.
Hmm.
So that's taken a lot of grass out of the areas, and so you got less good habitat now, but more hunters. So that puts a whole lot more pressure, hunting pressure on the existing landscape. So I mean, it's a double-edged sword kind of thing.
No, I completely agree. I like that perspective, and that's something I'm glad that we can talk about on here, because that's definitely a big concern in today's world with when it comes to conservation of the lands that we enjoy. And like you said, it takes things like what you just brought up, little changes here and there that can make a big difference and make an impact on years ahead in the future for us. So
Yeah.
it's things we have to look at now, so we're set in the future. But it's always a continuing thing. No, I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
No, well, thank you for sharing that. And then I just want to ask a question. This is really the first question I've asked on the podcast now that it's first time that we haven't been in the upland game season. Is what are you doing with your time now? Because I know for me it's gonna be a lot of fly fishing now. Get into some turkeys here soon, but just kind of I got in trouble by a lot of guys saying that I said it's the off season. I understand a lot of guys it's definitely not the off season, but for the hunting season as of right now, yes, we're kind of on pause. So I'm just curious what everybody's doing out there.
Well, I'll still run my dogs, and I'll probably run my dogs on birds until the end of March. You know, they don't start nesting up here till May. I usually don't run them on any wild birds at March, but through March, I usually run my dogs here on Hun pairs.
Okay.
Huns pair up real early. They're already paired up, even though they're not going to breed and nest till May.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, these Hun pairs, they'll shake a knot in your dog's tail. Well, my dogs don't have tails, but if they did, it'd shake a knot in their tail, because these are birds they're mature birds that have, survived, 24/7, 365, real predators, not me and my dogs. They've survived the real predators, and so they're really tough birds, and it's really good training for my dogs to try to pin them down. And it's not, I don't go after them on cold days, they'll have to be not, and I don't try to if we get them pointed once, we're doing good. So I won't reflush them, or anything like that. I don't put any stress on them. It doesn't hurt them a bit,
Right.
But we'll do that through March, and then, the rest of the summer, I just try to keep, my old body and my dogs in shape, and then, late August, I'll start running on birds again a little bit, maybe. We'll see. Depending on the hatch. Last year, the hatch here was really late, and so I didn't run my dogs on any of the birds at all until the hunting season started, because they were just too small. And I live pretty remote. All the birds here are kind of like my neighbors.
Nice residence.
There's not very many pheasants here. There's one old rooster that lives here on the farmstead with me, and I saw him the other day. I heard him. His name's Wally.
I love it. That's not a bad gig having. I wouldn't complain.
My dogs haven't pointed him once yet. He just really kicks their butts.
Oh, I love to hear that. No, that's awesome. That's good to hear.
Yeah, and I do a little bit of fishing. I do a little bit of warm water fishing for, perch and, walleye and northern pike and stuff. Little channel cat fishing.
There you go. Keep you busy until it all starts up again. We look forward to hearing, keeping us updated
till
on
the magic season. Season starts up.
I love it. Well, this has been a lot of fun, a great podcast, and we've enjoyed being able to spend some time getting to know you. As all of you guys know, I like to ask one last question, and that's, what kind of advice would you give to young hunters coming up, or guys who are seasoned? What kind of advice would you give them coming up?
Well, I would say, you have to trust your dogs. I think that's one thing I would say. You have to trust your dogs. That your dogs are the ones who are the real hunters. You're just a shooter. Your dogs are the ones who are doing the hunting. They're the ones that are gonna produce the magic.
Love it. No, we appreciate that. I love asking that question. Getting to know everybody's different perspectives, advice. I get to learn a lot from you guys. coming onto the podcast, and I enjoy it. And once again, Mike, thanks for coming onto the podcast and sharing your story and what you're doing out there. We appreciate it.
Well, thanks for inviting me, and I enjoyed it. I did.
Thank you again, everyone, for listening to the Bird Camp Radio podcast. I hope you enjoyed episode 22 with Mike Sheffer. But before you go, we need to release Mike's time for the rapid fire around the campfire game. Mike kind of mixed it up for us a little bit. Mike, your time is 36.28 seconds, which puts you in 5th place now. Thank you again, everyone, for listening. Please go follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can also find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to give us a rating and a review so we know what you like and dislike. You've been listening to Bird Camp Radio, where the high pines, marsh valleys, sagebrush seas, and shelf rock ledges always call us back. Until next time, keep your dogs close, your shot true, and your campfire stories ready to share. We'll see you back at camp. Don't miss out on the next episode, where we'll host our next guest on the podcast. You don't want to miss this one. Thank you.